book or an article dealing with outreach? Okay, most hands go up. Good. Were they 100% effective? You were able to implement everything you read at your church, and the doors are bursting at the seams, right? That's what happened when you read those books and articles, right? No. What happened? The reason that we wanted to have this discussion group is because outreach, as important as it is different for every single one of us. It is different for every church, it's different for every association, it's different for every neighborhood, it seems like. And so I don't want to step on anybody's toes and talk about things that other people are going to talk about. So I'm going to try to keep it narrow. But I want to start with talking about an attitude for outreach. And so the first thing that we need to make sure that we're doing is not getting stuck inside the four walls of the church. Right? And we tend to do that, right? Because I remember Jim McComish years ago, we had a church leadership conference there at Harmony. And he talked about if you want to have a church that has no problems, what do? You have a church with no people in it, right? And so we know what happens in churches is we have problems. We just had COVID where we were forced to be internal, right? We couldn't do outreach at all. And so we're kind of trying to get going again. We're trying to get that traction again and do the things that we need to do to reach our community. And for the most part, what do we need to be doing? We need to be reaching people with the gospel. Right, that's the priority, and so we need to make sure that we have that attitude. I tend to wander all over the place. Is this not going to work? Do I need to stay in one spot? Just move around? I like Cliff. I don't care what Mike says. So here's one of my favorite books that I read several years ago that really helped me with attitude toward outreach is a book called Growing Young. Powell. And what I found interesting about this book is it wasn't somebody's idea. It wasn't something, hey, this is what works for me. What I loved about Growing Young is it's a research project that took several years for this group of people to put together. And they went through, why are some churches thriving and others not? Why are some churches, from the aspect of, from the title of the book, why are some churches growing young while others are dying? And it was pretty fascinating. So remember that title, write it down, go read it. It's great. It's all research-based. It's not opinion-based. And it helps us to remember and recognize the fact that things like you don't need to have a fancy light show to attract people to church. You don't have to have a rock band in order to attract people to church. The things that were most important are building relationships. The things that are most important is being genuine. Don't be two-faced, right? Teach the word, preach the word. And so I really love that book. So along those lines, it really helped me to have the right attitude toward outreach. It helps me to have the right focus on outreach. And then the actual things that we use, I forgot my laptop over there. Hang on. I've got the notes and not the meat. So end of last year, I sat down and I thought, okay, for my church, what are we going to do? What are we going to do coming into 2023, right? Anybody ever do that? Anybody ever go into that rabbit hole and start doing some research and start reading books and start gathering all of these different ideas, all the latest and greatest gadgets and tricks and all that stuff for outreach? Listen, we're in church. Okay, we're in church, so you guys have to tell the truth, right? We've all done it. We've all tried to figure that out. And so rather than me tell you, this is what you should be doing, because it doesn't work that way. What works in Hanford isn't going to work in Bakersfield necessarily. It's not going to work all of our different communities, but we can still help one another. We can still encourage one another. We could come up with ideas. The simplest thing that is happening in Farmersville, for instance, that we've never ever thought about, could be something that we could implement in our churches as well. So I want to start off by just throwing out some things that we have decided to do in Hanford. Some things that we decided, hey, for our community and for our church, this is what we think is going to get us in touch with people so that we could start the conversation about Jesus in Hanford. And then I want to open it up to where I want to hear from each and every one of you in what you're doing in your community. All right? So this is what we're doing. The first thing that we decided to adopt, first thing that we decided that we're going to do is we're going to adopt that we were hoping to adopt a school. But here's the thing. Our church is too small to adopt a whole school. And so what we're actually going to do is we're going to adopt a grade. We're going to go into the school, the local school, and say, all the fifth grade classes, we're adopting the fifth grade classes. And so we're going to support and pray for the teachers. We're going to go in and help them with backpack drives and shoe drives and school supplies and actually gift those teachers with cards and supply, whatever it is, right? So we're going to adopt a class at school. That's number one that we're doing. How many of you have local farmers market? Brother Tim talking about that, I was like, yeah, I love those things too. Those are great. Hanford on Thursday nights have a place in the park where they have tons of booths set up and people come out and mill around. And so it's just a great spot for us to set up a booth and then just talk to people and introduce ourselves and introduce Jesus depending on where the conversation goes. How many people have anything like that in your town? Yeah, a lot. So that's an opportunity that we have as well. And then yeah, so the booth is a big one. What are you guys doing? Again, I don't have all the answers. And I know there's a couple of people in the back that are like, I know that already. I know you don't have all the answers. I've talked to you before. Yeah. You were the guy. So this is the part. Who had coffee? Who got coffee? Oh, all right. You guys are energized and ready to talk. This is the forum. This is weird in church, right? You guys are not used to this, right? I didn't come here to talk. I came here to sit and listen, right? What are you guys doing in your church? Jared?
So we recently started working with a child behavioralist who works with kids on the spectrum. We initially were going to set up a clinic where these kids before school age could learn how to communicate and be able to go to school and be communicative with their teachers. That particular process has fallen through. However, the behavioralist wants to work with our Sunday school teachers to get us prepared to work with kids that are on the spectrum that come through our doors. And as a result, we're going to be able to start in July having classes for the parents of kids that are on the spectrum to answer questions, be that supportive staff and everything. And while the parents are downstairs learning this, the staff that they've trained at our church is upstairs working with their kids, giving the parents a break and also giving them an opportunity to see that other people care about their kids in a place where normally those types of parents wouldn't come through the church doors because they're afraid of their kids being burdened.
Yeah.
We have a local room downtown that is the sensory room that's going to start setting up tables at these events that will allow us to work with them and let the parents know that that is an available option. And then all of that is going to spill over into a school resource opportunity in July right before the kids go back to school. We're going to be giving out backpacks as a church. We found a website that allows us to get the drawstring backpacks with our church logo printed on them for about $3 a piece. And we're shoving those full of school supplies and handing those out to the general community. But we did that last year, worked out really well. We had about 100 kids that came through. But on top of that, we'll also have other resources like SNAP, EBT, benefits for kids that are in low-income areas that need the extra help from the school about doing like IEPs and things like that.
So-
All of this one fair.
So before we get too far in too many things, let me go back because I want to ask you a couple of questions about the spectrum. I was wondering, the staff that's going to come and be leading those classes, are those?
No, so that's actually they're trained behavioralists.
Okay.
So they will be working with my staff to help train them to make sure that they can function and operate in a classroom setting with those kids.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. That's good stuff. Danny?
I'd like to volunteer Brother Paul Hernandez to give a little bit of a breakdown of our outreach, our ministry, 25, 35. So we'll go ahead.
Yeah.
Recently, we have well, actually not recently, because of the pandemic, when we weren't allowed to door knock and visit the way we normally do, we started doing a food distribution. That way people would come to us if they felt safe to do so. We started doing that in our Spanish church, and we started off with 100 people, something like that. We've been doing it for almost 2 years now. I think it's just about to be 2 years. And last month we had about 1,000 people represented in our building. It's 95% Spanish speaking because our community is heavily Hispanic, and those in our community who are more impoverished are heavily Hispanic. So our Spanish church has grown. We've had 3 families added in the last month, 2 months, from people who have come to our food distribution. We do that once a month. We partner with CAFWB here in Kern County. So if you're from Kern County, Shafter, Bakersfield, Delano, you could take part in that. And it's like a monthly, it's an annual fee of like $250, and then you buy food for 19 cents a pound. We get trailers full of food, thousands of pounds for like $20, because we either get a lot of stuff for free. We provide food to our community like that, and then anyone we have to send away, we get their name and address for visitation, and then we follow them up and deliver food that way. We have a growing list of people who we constantly follow up and make sure that they still have food, especially people in our community who are older. We constantly go by and make sure that they're okay, that there's a couple people who need help getting to the doctors and stuff, and it kind of all ends up tying together. Like we call it the Matthew 25-35 ministry, just taking care of people's physical needs, and then again reminding them that the reason we do it is because we love them and we want to see them in church.
Okay. That's great.
Sorry, go ahead and give them the statistics if you would on Monday night, Thursday, Saturday.
Oh yeah, well, because of how many, we had 1,000 people in our food distribution last month. We have had an uptick, of course, in our prospects and the follow-up that needs to happen. So by recruiting in our church, we had 45 people on visitation last week, members, and just going out during the week, Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and I think we had 55 the week before that. So because there's an abundance of opportunity, we find that our members are more willing to labor because they see the need, and they see the fruit immediately, and it's not necessarily something that, because to be honest, we're really impatient a lot of times. We plant and we water, and then we expect God to give the increase in about 30 minutes. And when they can see the results immediately, also it helps because our ladies, for example, they don't necessarily want to go to somebody's door and go, I'm looking for Jim. I don't know who Jim is, but so when they go with food in hand, it opens the door. It's a lot less confrontational. People are a lot more willing. I've had people slam the door in my face, but then when I say, I'm giving away food, they open the door and grab the flyer. So when you hand out food, and when in our community we're known for that, it's really been beneficial to our church.
How many times do you knock the town?
We knock the town once a year, the whole community. We cut it into 48 sections, and we knock once a week, one section a week on a Saturday, and we knock the whole town in every year. So.
How long have you been doing that?
Since I've been there, 14 years.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Should have gave you the microphone.
I didn't know the numbers.
So food distribution, what a great way to serve the community contacts. All right. What else?
Did you mention the clothing part of the thing too?
We also give away clothes.
Richard?
Yeah, we've got you call it a homeless ministry, we call it people between addresses. And we've got a lot of people that live in their cars around our church. And we're getting more and more of them coming into the services here for free. We provide breakfast on Sundays, clothing, showers, sometimes we get 15 showers. So, an outhouse in the back, there's no bathrooms around.
Yeah. I want to comment on Richard's church. When I went over there to visit, I've always been astounded at the fact that I can go to church and I would ask the question almost every time of a pastor, how you doing? And a lot of pastors feel like that's a question where they have to defend or excuse why the church looks the way it does or how many people they have in it, right? So invariably I'd get the answer, how you doing? Oh, well, brother so-and-so, they're on vacation this week, and that's why, the numbers are down because of this, and that wasn't really what I was asking. But what I found is interesting is that you could have a church with 200 people in it, and it's not being the church. And so many people are worried about having a church that has 10, 12, 15, 50 people in it. And when I went to Brother Brown's church, what I did is I showed up Sunday school and they started explaining to me, sat down at basically a kitchen table, and we were studying the Bible and they're explaining it. Every morning we open the church doors and we feed the people that are around. They clothe them. You still offering showers? They can come in and take a shower? Not that anymore. And listen, I came away from that place. It was, this is not a disparaging remark at all. It was one of the smaller churches, people-wise, that I've been to. But I came away saying that is a church that's being a church. People had a need and they were doing exactly what they needed to do to address those people, and I appreciated that. Anybody else? Phil?
Yeah, our pastor's wife saw a need with, since COVID, there's been an increase in homeschooling. And she posted it online, just reaching out, saying, show up here at the church for grade schoolers to have some interaction with each other, where she would provide a Bible-based lesson and some activities where these homeschoolers can interact with their kids. And then every so often, maybe once a month, they would do a trip together. Because in homeschool, you just with your siblings, and the interaction with the kids isn't there. And so.
Sounds like what Brother Tim was talking about, association, right? Getting those people together, doing together what they can't do alone.
And this is fairly new, and it's been growing, and from what I heard from the last report, she has a second session. The first one is full, so it's taking off.
That's good. That's unique in that it's addressing a need, right? Sometimes we get stuck in ruts, don't we? Sometimes we get stuck in ruts, and hey, this is the thing. This is the ministry our church has always done, and so we need to keep pouring money and time and effort into this thing. Yeah, but you've only got no people participating, or you're not getting anything from it, right? So it's great to think of where your church is, right, and who the people are. I know somebody, Brother Tim, are you talking about Know Your Community when you're up here later? I don't want to touch too much on that, but we can save it. I just didn't want to take too much of it away from you. Mike?
I won't step on his thing either, but I was going to have that down as ours.
Yeah.
The Know Your Community study, it's phenomenal. I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Get him to do it. And then I've been privy to the Hope Initiative, which when that becomes public, everybody do it. It's going to be great. Those are outreach. And then we have a young lady in our church that had just finished a master's in, I don't even know, but it deals with autism. Deals with autism, kids on the spectrum,
Yeah.
sleep studies with those students, and so we're going to be working with her and develop a little bit of aid, because what we've discovered is that's a community that's getting forgotten. In fact, we've had people that showed up at our church who've been asked to not come to other churches because of their children.
Yeah.
And so we said, well, let's start working on how we can accommodate those families. And then the other one was, we can't adopt a school either, but I'm working on adopting some teachers.
Yeah.
We've got like 5 teachers in our church, but across the street we have a whole school, and so I'd like to adopt teachers there and try to win the teachers and then have them influence the children.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Does this resonate? Are we wasting our time? I think, it's great. First of all, it's an encouragement for me to hear what our different churches are doing, and I think it's great. But I hope this is something that we can also take away and say, hey, I can try that, right? Or Brother Tim's going to talk about it in more detail. Mike's touched on it. I did the Know Your Community survey. It was eye-opening. As much as you think you know your neighborhood or your town, you don't. I'll tell you right now, you don't know. And so it's really eye-opening, and it helps us to be able to focus on where we need to be, who we need to be talking to, what kind of services that we could provide to our community in order to reach the needs so that we can then share Jesus with them. So that is so incredibly important. Can I rattle off some ideas again? When I was doing research, it was more of a brainstorming session, and anything and everything that I could find, unless somebody else has something that they want to bring up as well. Let me throw these out here. Oh, this was the other thing that we were planning to do, because there were 3 and I only mentioned 2. We're going to sponsor one of our local sports teams. So we're going to sponsor a soccer team. And it's just simple. $300 is all it takes for us to sponsor a team. And guess what? Our church name is on the back of 10 or 12 little kids running around the field that all the parents are just crazy about, right? I mean, insane. You know what that's like, right? Yeah. All right. So here's some things that I found that we could do as a church. Some of it's either providing space or maybe providing training for those around us, but things like a mental health support group. So it's not that we necessarily have to have the experts, but maybe we could provide the space for somebody to come in and be able to help with that. Host a literacy program, family movie nights. I don't know about you guys, but I like good movies. And to be able to come together and have popcorn at church and just to get to know our community, right? Those are always good times. Financial health classes, Dave Ramsey's, or all of the different programs that we could share. And listen, where are most of our churches at? Especially where are our churches in California at? They're in the heart of these neighborhoods that need help, right? So that would be a good one. Sponsor and or serve and work in a neighborhood barbecue. So, hey, we're going to have a cookout. We're going to, at the church, and invite your neighborhood. Go. It'd be amazing. Instead of putting a flyer, come to church on Sunday morning. If you put, like we're talking about, free food or free barbecue or a free hot dog or free hamburger or whatever, put that on their door in your neighborhood and feed some people. That's always a good one. I know, I like to go to those. I'm waiting for somebody to say free meal Baptist, and nobody took the bait. Yeah, that's probably right. How about support a senior center? It's one of the most neglected groups that we have, right? And so many of these facilities need people to come in and preach and do church and share Jesus with them. So that's a good one. Homecoming service, again, that's kind of reaching out to people that go to the church, but it's still an outreach because you may have a lot of people that used to go and don't go now, and maybe they've wandered off and they need to be redirected back to Jesus. VBS is a long time one. I know that's a lot of work, but that's always a good, effective one. Different seminars, a parenting workshop, a marriage workshop, estate planning, financial or a budget workshop, a grief workshop. So those are, again, these are just so many things that we could do. So it's time for us to look at areas where we minister to our community, right? And stop. We can't keep doing the same things that, I'm sad to say, but gone are the days where we could put a banner out in front of the church and says revival this week. Unfortunately, it's gone. We're post-Christian now, and so we really have to change our approach to how we interact with our communities. We've got to be reaching out to them and serving them and trying to help them as much as we can so that we can eventually, almost like Paul was mentioning, kind of do the switcheroo on them and say, hey, you've got problems, but it's not a mental health workshop that's going to cure your ills. It's Jesus Christ. Any other thoughts before I wrap up this afternoon? Nobody else? I'd really like for one more. Chuck, please.
I think one thing I would just add too is, I know for me personally, when my perspective changed from growing the church to just loving on people, loving the community, that's what changed kind of the mindset of our church. And if our whole goal is always just to do outreach to help grow the church and bring people into the doors, I think ultimately you may see some success, but it's going to ultimately falter. And I know
again, it goes back to associations, right? Association with good other. I wanted to talk more about outreach, but I got to tell you right now as we're closing this up, I'm actually much more encouraged by the fact that we have some great going on in our state. Our churches are doing amazing things. So, Paul, what you guys are doing is amazing. Thank you for sharing. Not a pat on the back for you, right? It's a pat on the back for Jesus. And he's allowing us to do. Chuck, thank you for sharing. Phil, everybody that shared, this is good stuff. Jared, amazing stuff. And so I hope that this encourages you. If maybe you're lacking in outreach, it's time, let this be a call for us to turn our focus out of the walls, outside, reaching to the people in our community. And then you can see there's so many different approaches that we can take. And so I hope that you're able to do that as well.